Yes, that is right, folks. I am speaking to the big man himself, ladies and gentlemen, all the way from the North Pole, Santa Claus. How are you doing today?
Well, hello, Jack. How are you? It's terrific to hear your voice.
Yeah, same with
Uh,
yourself, Santa. I'm good. I'm good. Looking forward to Christmas. It's like 2 days to go, and God, like I'm looking forward. I'm hyped.
oh, well, I'm nearly ready here. We've just to put the last few touches to our list, and all the elves have been working very hard, and we always have a little party here on the 23rd because we're getting ready for me and all the reindeers to leave on early on the 24th.
I'm surprised actually that you're doing like a massive old party for the 23rd. I would have thought it might have been like the second busiest day of the year for you guys.
Well, we like to consider ourselves organized up here in the North Pole. So all the work has been done, and I think it's very important to thank all of the elves and all of the workers up here. So now we won't be going crazy, but we'll have drinks and things, and then I'll take a little nap before I head off on the 24th. As I say, Rudolph is ready to go, and it'll be exciting. No, we always have a little party, a little gathering on the 23rd.
Oh yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely to hear. Now I'm gonna ask a couple of questions for you, Santa, because I think I'd be doing a disservice to all the listeners if I didn't ask a couple of questions to Santa. So I suppose the first like real proper question I'm gonna ask you today is, how did you sort of like become Santa, and what made you sort of decide to like deliver presents to people all over the world?
Well, that happened a very long time ago. There was an agreement made with, you see, I have numerous names, and Santa is one, and St. Nicholas is another of my names. And I was speaking to the man who's in charge of us all, and he said to me it would be a wonderful idea if you traveled around the world giving presents to every little boy and girl, and mammies and daddies, and all parents, to mark a special time in the year. So that was where we came up with that idea, and it's been going on. Do you know how long it's been going on, Jack?
I believe it's almost been 1,000 years, maybe even
Oh,
more.
but many more years, even as old as the pyramids. And
Gee.
oh yes, I remember them actually building the pyramids, and I said that'll take them a long time, but it was completed in the time, and going back a few years, I can tell you.
Oh, it's going back a couple of millenniums, Santa. Let's be honest now.
And in Ireland, I remember them building Newgrange.
Oh,
And
lovely.
oh yes, and that is still available for people to go into, and it's actually one of the most moving experiences people can do if they ever find themselves in that part of the world.
Oh, yeah, because, like, as you know, like, 2 days ago, like, the whole sort of summer solstice, whatever you pronounce it, where
And
the whole building just sort of lights up. That happened a few days back. So, like,
wasn't that an amazing engineering feat on the people that built that many, as you say, millenniums ago?
yeah, it was definitely a long time ago. Now, you did mention that you have a couple of names. You know, you have Saint Nicholas, you have Santa, but there's also other names for you as well, like Father Christmas. And if
Yeah.
you're in Dublin, it's Santy. Or if you're in America, some people might mispronounce your name and have it as Sandy Claus. So where do all these multiple names come for you?
Oh, well, like it's I'm sure you have pet names you use for different people,
Hmm.
and are they called nicknames? That's Saint Nick, you see. It comes from a nickname, and I have many names, as you've pointed out so well, Jack.
Hmm.
And but I answer to all of those names because people around the world, not everyone is the same. You see, there's different nationalities in different parts of the world, so everyone makes Santa their own in some way. You know.
Yeah, yeah, and understandable. And it wouldn't make sense, to have, I suppose, the same name if it doesn't make sense in another country. Sure, Santa is an alcoholic drink, you know.
Well, you'll always have the people that want to commercialize the whole holiday as Christmas experience. But that's okay too because people have to make a living, and I'm full on with all the glitter and the music and all the songs. I love it, especially when they start playing the Christmas songs on the radio and all the television films. It's wonderful. It keeps the magic alive.
Oh yeah, it absolutely does. Which is why we're here today, to talk to you. And then after, when we're done with you today, we'll be playing a bunch of music for the rest of the show. So,
Oh,
I hope you'll tune in and listen to the rest of it. It's great. It's gonna be great stuff. Uh,
oh, we'll have it on here in the workshops, and the elves love. They love. They say put on Jack's program, and that's regular up here, you know. And if we miss it, we always catch the podcast.
Oh yes, that's very good. Thank you very much, Sansa. I'm glad that they love that the elves love it. And speaking of the elves, how long have you actually had the elves for? And how helpful have they been over the years for you?
Well, it all happened really because I was getting a little old and I couldn't manage myself. And Mrs. Claus as sort of came up with the idea that maybe we'll try and ask if some of the elves would help us. And that's going back an awful long time now. And now they've become part of the family.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's great. I mean, they seem to like help with even making the toys as well. How do they
Oh,
sort of keep like up to date, Santa, with making new toys and everything? Because back in the day, a lot of toys were wooden or stuffed, or maybe even they'd be
yeah.
mechanical. But a lot of toys now they're very electrical, as I'm sure you probably find. So how do they sort of keep up to date with all that sort of stuff?
Well, as you know, there's different ways of getting technically expertise in these matters, and I've sent off all the elves to learn. One works with electrical devices, and as you pointed out, there's some still working with wood, and then there's a whole range of expertise at hand up here on the North Pole, and then they teach all the rest of the other elves. And it's a learning experience because learning, as you know, Jack, is quite it's a wonderful experience to learn something new, and the elves are always eager to discover how to make new toys, and with the computer world now, it's even become even faster. It's tremendous. We can communicate much easier now.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's really cool that they like to continue to learn to make new toys and new things like that. That's always great to hear. And another helpful part of the job that you have is the reindeers as well. I mean, how do like flying reindeer help you on your journey so much? Like you wouldn't think it, but they somehow do.
Well, you see, that's where the magic comes in. Rudolph, of course, is the leader of the reindeers, and it's still that shiny nose, and it's a bright glow that brings us through the skies. And he's followed, of course, Dasher and Dancer and the Comet and Cube. All of them are still ready as much as the first time we set off, and And of course, Rudolph is always eager to get ready earlier, so we have to keep him sort of, in a sense, he's a little bit too eager to get going, so we have to keep tabs on Rudolph.
And understandable, like the reindeer. I think are they healthy enough? Do they keep getting exercise throughout the year, even when it's not Christmas Eve?
Well, when Christmas is over and all of our duties are completed, we all go off to another part of the Lapland up here, and we all relax and we have fun and we recuperate, as they say, from all that travel. And because even the reindeer suffer from something which people have jet lag, but the reindeers they recover rather quickly, and we're back then busy as ever the next for 2020, the Christmas of 2023.
Ah, yes, that's good to know. That's good to know. And as you've mentioned, you've done like millenniums of this job delivering presents. So I'd like to know what was like maybe the hardest year doing the job. Like what was sort of like the hardest year? There's been a couple of hard years, but what was like the hardest for you?
The hardest year. Oh, well, there was many years where things were scarce and money wasn't, in a sense, the world economics affects us up here as well. So there was periods like the Wall Street crash. Do you remember that in 1929, where things were bad? And there's been a couple of more economic slumps, but Jack, we always make it back up on our feet, and with people working together and spreading the Christmas spirit, everybody seems to come right in the end.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The teamwork always does help when it comes to things like that. And yeah. Now let's actually go on to this Christmas that you're doing. Now the last time I spoke to you, you mentioned that you kind of had like abolished the naughty list for 2020. Is that still the same for 2022, or has a couple of bad apples come back and you know?
I know there's a lot made this list of being naughty and being nice, but to be quite honest, and this is a secret between you and me, Jack, on Christmas Eve, everybody is on the nice list. It's a little thing I think parents thought of to control their kids. In some ways it's a good thing because you have to be nice but Santa will always find a way to give, even if you've had a little trouble. You'll always get a present from Santa. But it doesn't harm you to be extra nice because then there might be something even better coming your way.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't kids don't use that to like disregard being nice. Still be good. Don't be just cruel.
I think Jack. Now I know you've always been a good boy. And,
well, I've tried to at least.
And, I know that it's hard sometimes, but we always look after everyone, as I said.
Yeah, absolutely. And
where will you be spending Christmas this year, Jack? Because I know you're a very busy young man.
I'd say probably it'll just be at my home. I'd imagine I'm probably not going to be going anywhere else. So I mean, and I'm sure you're familiar of my home and everything.
Oh yes, I love coming into Ireland and we make our way out, and I always love dropping off at your place. But you're always asleep, which, thank God, that's so important, isn't it, Jack? Because I can't come to visit if you're awake. You have to be asleep, and of course, the usual requests of the carrot for Rudolph and Dasher and Dancer, they all love the veggies, and their favourite, of course, being a carrot and a little drop of hot milk for myself and a cookie or biscuit, as you say in Ireland.
Ah, yeah, absolutely. And speaking of sleeping and going to sleep and everything, I will be honest, Sansa, my sleep pattern has been a bit all over the place. It's been sometimes 2 a.m., sometimes been 5 a.m., sometimes it's been an all-nighter. It's been not very good, but I would like to ask you, though, what time do you actually expect all of us to sort of go to bed? What would be a reasonable time?
A reasonable. Oh, well, if you're, say, a little one, maybe about 6 o'clock. Now, I'm talking about the very little ones.
Oh,
And
yeah.
as you get a little older, maybe 7, 8, and then maybe up to about 9 o'clock, and then the teenagers maybe 10 o'clock or half 10 or 11, and then for the older ones maybe about 11 o'clock. But everybody has to be in bed by 12 o'clock, or
Mm-hmm.
I won't be able to come.
No. Have you had problems where you had to try and get people to sleep, or is there like some sort of magic where you just kind of snap them asleep and then deliver the
Well,
presents and off you go?
well, sometimes when we call and it's still awake, we have to use the magical dust, and it's a little powerful sprinkle of dust, and that puts everybody asleep. But we don't like to use it because we want people to try and sleep themselves. But sometimes, the odd time, we have to sprinkle some of that magic dust, and it always works. Straight away, everybody nods off to sleep.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But what if like one of them's like standing up and you just knock them to sleep? Do they just like collapse on the floor, or do they like go to bed? What happens?
I know we always make sure before we sprinkle that we lay them down gently up wherever they want or they're comfortable, and nobody ever gets hurt, Jack. That's one of the good things about us. They wake up very refreshed and comfortable.
All right, that's good to hear. And speaking of the magic as well, one thing that's sort of like the big sort of question that I have, and we did cover it a little bit a few years back, but I feel we need a bit of a reminder over it because it's a very puzzling question, and that is about the sleigh. How do you land the sleigh and then get down the chimney? I wonder if there's like absolutely no chimney, like in an apartment or something like that. What happens then?
Well, this is a question I'm asked a lot, and Santa has an ability to get into every place where people live. Now, sometimes they have chimneys, sometimes they don't, but I've always had no problem wherever any family is. I'll always manage to get, because we have a type of a device which shows us the layout of each place where everyone lives, and there's always, believe me, a way in, and that's how we get in. So don't worry if you're living in an apartment or if you're living in rented accommodation or wherever you are. Santa will be able to leave all the presents there. Don't worry about that.
Oh yeah. Well, that's very good to know, Santa, that you have all those sort of like really good tech that is able to help you get
Yes.
into the house with no problem. And speaking of tech, and speaking of maybe like the future of yourself and Santa and all this sort of stuff regarding Christmas and everything, is there any sort of future plans for yourself? That are you gonna like maybe upgrade certain things on the sleigh or? Certain parts of the workshop or stuff like that. What does the future hold for Santa Claus?
Well, we always, as I said earlier, we have all these technology experts up here in the North Pole. So we did, when SatNav came out, we always had a form of SatNav. But we do keep abreast of all the electrical engineering new devices, And so I wouldn't worry. I leave that to the experts, and they always tell me just actually they'll be bringing me up to the sleigh later on today to show me all the new devices that have been installed.
Oh, that's lovely. That's good to know that you're keeping yourself up to date, not just the elves, even yourself as well. That is good to hear. That's great to hear. You know.
That's it. So it's always exciting, and every year is exciting to get started. And we start, as you know, and we go to Australia, and then we work our way as the day, the equinox into the. So that's the way we go. We work with the weather patterns and the conditions. And I believe it's been very cold in Ireland.
Oh,
Very
yes.
seasonal. Yes. So that makes it extra special.
Yeah, yeah. It's been very. I mean, it's been very cold here. My hands like are freezing off of me.
Well, we might even bring you a pair of new gloves, Jack.
That would be nice. That would be nice. Any nice little present for Santa, I will take it. Well, well, look, Santa, it's been great chatting to you today. But I know you got the party to do. I know you have the sleigh to attend, and you have the big day tomorrow. So Santa, thank you very much for coming on. Is there any sort of last things that you would like to say for all the listeners?
Well, I always just like to remind everyone that Christmas is a time for families and friends to look out for one another and to be kind and help one another. I think it's an extra special time of the year, and it's a chance for a new beginning also, which is always, good to know that the new year is on the heels of Christmas. So if you're looking for an excuse to start afresh, well, what better chance than the new year? So that's why it's a magical time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Santa. Well, thank you very much once again for coming on, Santa. And yes, I will speak to you soon.
Okay, and you too, Jack, and I'll talk to you hopefully next year.